Brent and Daniel back with me again. I'm very excited to talk more about EOS and what we do to drive results in our business and how other companies do, and just all about entrepreneurialism.
Okay.
So, Brent, I wanted to talk to you about what you see the role of data being in the EOS model.
Oh, yeah. So data it's one of the 6 key components of the model. A lot of organizations, entrepreneurial organizations, well, any organization, I would say. Entrepreneurial specifically, though, they tend to just kind of go with their gut. The entrepreneur is most likely the visionary for the business, and they just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, make it up as they go, or figure it out as they go, build it as they're flying it, or flying as they build it, whatever the euphemism is. So one of the things that we say is a weakness in an organization is that key component of data. If you're missing that, you're going to have issues. And so we help organizations strengthen that. It's the third in the model, not that matters, but data is all about making sure you're getting the right facts, figures, and objective information to make decisions. So we work, it's so important that it's one of the 6 that we work on. And we do that primarily with something called a scorecard and measurables.
So data is something that our company can relate to very strongly. And I think that's a big component that drew us towards the EOS model, is that data is so important. The scorecard, with goals, with rocks. It's very ingrained in the EOS model. You being the visionary of our organization, but also being somebody that's very data focused. How do you see us ingraining our data into the EOS model, and how are we setting a model for other people on how you can utilize data in the EOS model?
Yeah, I would say our integrator is better with data than I am, to be fair. More consistent. I'm really good at getting the data that I need.
You like numbers,
I love numbers.
Our integrator Chris makes it happen. He's pulling the numbers out.
So in Acumatica, for instance, in any system that you run, you can get your data out. The ideal is that you can get it out how you need it. Right? Some systems don't run that way. Some of them are very this is, out of the box, you get these numbers. And you're like, okay, well, that's not quite where I want to be. So I think Acumatica is flexible in that matter, because I can get whatever I want out of it, would be what I would say.
Yeah.
As long as it's in the system, as long as the data's in there, you guys can pull it and massage it and report it, whatever.
I can put it on a dashboard. I can put it into a list of data. I can, all sorts of things to drive a scorecard, right? The reason I say that I'm not that good with it is I can get it all out. I'll build the report. I'll name it something, and I won't remember what it's named. In a month when I need it again, I'll go build it again, because that's quicker than figuring out. And then I'll work with our integrator, and he's like, oh, here's this GI is what we call an Acumatica generic inquiry that has a list view of all the data that I need for this thing. I'm like, who built this? He's like, you built this. Really? Yeah, I've been using it for 2 years. I'm like, oh
wow, that's really good.
Yeah, this is kind of nice. I don't have to do this again. So, but I think Acumatica is really strong at that. It pulls the data how you want it. It gives you actionable numbers, so you can go in and, it doesn't really matter what scorecard system you're using for EOS. You can plug in the numbers. They have to come from somewhere.
Right.
So maybe we got a little ahead of ourselves here. How would...
That'll happen.
Yes.
That'll happen.
You got 2 visionaries at the table, Salina. You're going to have to do better on that.
Guardrails.
So how do you see an organization that doesn't necessarily have a system in place in their organization that can pull data quickly? How do you see them struggling with the EOS model? Do you think that if you don't have a data warehouse where you can pull information or numbers from easily, if you don't have that, do you think you'll then struggle with the EOS model? And either of y'all can answer that.
Yeah, I will say,
an open-ended thing.
From my experience, I've probably worked with more clients with EOS than you have.
For sure.
My experience is that if they don't have systems in place already, some kind of technology or something, a process to get information, then it's just going to be more laborious, right? It's not that it's a bad thing, because actually getting those measurables on the scorecard and monitoring them week in, week out helps the business and helps you get better. But eventually you're going to need something, right? It's just, we're inundated with data in business today. And we need to have systems that help analyze it for us, that we can get reports from, we can do queries, and we can get it the way we want it versus us having to go spend an hour every week figuring out how to do it again, like Daniel would do.
Yes.
Right?
Not the right way, for sure.
Yeah. So but any organization that has something like an ERP, when we're talking about putting measurables on the scorecard, they'll say something like, "Oh yeah, we can't get that from our system," or more likely they'll say, "We don't have that from our system, but I'm sure we can get it." Right? So that it doesn't take a lot of effort for them to go and find out how to get it out and report it, so that they can get the weekly number.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's really easy in Acumatica.
It is. It's pretty simple. You do have to build it for what you want.
Sure.
Probably. Sometimes that's already there, but sometimes you have to build for the result that you want. I will say that it's like a chicken and an egg scenario. Like, you have a scorecard maybe before you have systems to give you the data for the scorecard.
You do, yeah.
And then you need to go find something to do that.
Right.
Because at some level, as you grow, you can't run it's probably not the right word. It's probably not wise to run a business with 30 people without a system.
Yeah.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, how many sales calls did we make this week? And it's like, Bob says 5. Okay, it's 5. Like, you gotta have a way of recording that and then preemptively make decisions on it and look back at trends. It's something that you may grow into. But if you're a 5-person company, that's probably fine.
Yeah.
That's part of being a smaller company.
Right.
So what is that level? I don't know. I think it varies for people, but I do think having a system to get data into is part of building your processes, in my opinion.
I'll say this too, the scorecard typically is different from, or we're putting measurables on it that are different than what are traditionally used in business. So you're right, we come up with the scorecard and the measurables, and then we go, okay, we got to go figure out how to get this. Yeah. How are we going to capture this activity and make sure we meet the goals or not? That's when a system is awesome.
Yep.
And if it is something like sales calls, well, if you're using a CRM, if your package, your ERP has a CRM in it, then just count how many activities got put in that week, right? Yeah. It's already there, just capture it and report it out for the scorecard. But the scorecard should be driving the data. I mean, in the fact of what data we're going to get. Yeah. Not, well, here's the data we have. I guess we'll have to make it work with this. Yeah. That's just not going to work for any business. Yeah.
Because everyone has like P&L data, right? You just have to, but that's not a scorecard.
Right. That's not a scorecard.
It's a lagging indicator. You want stuff that's looking ahead, activity-based numbers. Yeah. And you usually have to build that out. Acumatica does have a CRM, so like we have some of those metrics in our system.
Yeah.
Just pull them together, report on them. It's really cool. Yeah. But
yeah, so something that I've found to be found that a lot of our prospects struggle with is like, okay, so we have all this data. What if it is useful? And I think that's something that EOS really helps you identify is, okay, if you have the ERP first, if your chicken came before your egg, then then you can use the EOS model or use those quarterly, annual meetings, wherever you're planning, and find out what of that data is important to put on your scorecard and what of that data is important to report on weekly and pay attention to. So I see the problem happening both ways. You said sometimes the scorecard comes before the ERP, but if you have the ERP before the scorecard, maybe utilizing the whole system is very helpful.
When I think starting with the ERP or any system that you're using, whether it's ERP, CRM, whatever it may be, if you have that first and then you move into EOS and you create a scorecard, it probably makes your data better because it'll hold you accountable to getting it in the system. We use sales calls. That's a great example. Sales reps notoriously hate CRMs. So if you start reporting on it, it's like, oh, Bob, why'd you make 0 calls this week? It's like, well, I didn't. It's like, well, that's what it says right here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Bob's putting in those calls.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hugely helpful.
Yeah, and what we're doing is when EOS, when you start to implement the scorecard with EOS, you're not necessarily going in and trying to change an ERP system, right? So it's there, it's functioning, it's supporting the business, hopefully, doing the things you want.
You hope.
We just hope that it's going to be flexible enough to be able to customize and get the data that we actually need, because we're only looking for like 5 or 15 different measurables each week.
Yeah.
So we don't need all these various reports and all that stuff. Just give me 5 to 15 numbers. That's it.
Yeah.
And let's put them on the scorecard and track it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's all I had about this.
Yeah, I could talk data forever. I don't want to bore you or you.
Yeah.
We gotta cut it off for our audience sake.
We'll be done, yeah.
Well, thank you both for getting a little nerdy with me today.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.